I feel like there's so much competition in life, no matter what career you're in, no matter what family you're in. Like, competition is something that surrounds us so much. And, we were talking about mentors earlier, and it reminded me that you often mentor a lot of people who also want to do the things that you've done. Like, whether it's writing a book, whether it's being online, whatever it is. I've always admired that you really do put so much effort into sharing that knowledge with other people so that they can also succeed at it. Have you been through times in your life where you felt jealous of people, where you have felt that competitive nature? And how can someone, so I'm probably asking for myself really, how can I get past the competitive nature that you feel on a daily basis in so many different parts of your life, physically, emotionally, mentally, work, family, whatever? Like, how do you do that?
The first thing I want to say, because I think competition often gets a bad rap because it leads to comparison.
I think it's a bad rap, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm joking. Is it bad rap?
Either, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I think competition gets a bad name because...
Just here to humble you.
Because it leads to comparison and it leads to envy. And so we just go, oh, competition's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But then everyone in their head's going, how do I win?
Right.
And so here's how I look at it. If anyone's winning, they've just understood the systems and patterns better than you. That's it. And the question is, are you willing to study the systems and patterns as well as they have or better than they have? A lot of us don't want to put in that work. So we'd rather tear that person down. We'd rather point fingers, or we'd rather be like, oh, I don't want to be that popular anyway. I'm happy being me. And really all of that's coming from the angst of, I just don't want to do the work to study that deeply.
The distraction.
That's just the reality of it. That's just the truth. I've rarely seen it where it's genuine, because if it was genuinely you didn't care, you wouldn't be talking about that person in the first place.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at it, first of all, from the perspective of anyone who is successful has just studied the patterns, the algorithms, and the systems. That is what has happened. That's just a fact. If you look at the best people in business, they understand business patterns.
Right.
If you look at the best people on social media, they understand social media patterns. If you look at the best people in marketing, fashion, beauty, they either are building patterns that become the patterns that everyone studies, or they're studying patterns. We have a choice. So knowing that it's factual and that it's studyable means, okay, now it's a matter of, do I want to do that with my time? And if someone goes, actually, I don't want to do that with my time, I want to spend time with my family. That's beautiful, that's great. But then don't expect the same result.
Right.
And if someone goes, oh, actually, I want to study that pattern and do that, then they may have to compromise somewhere else. So that's the first thing. It's just factual. It's not that emotional. Then I look at it as like, of course I've felt envious and jealous in my life. Of course I have. I don't know anyone who doesn't feel that way. And I think, again, we've got to normalize it. It's a human emotion.
Totally.
We shouldn't judge people for feeling that way. It's very normal. We often ask ourselves, do I want what that person has? And instead we should be asking, do I want to do what they do?
Right.
Right? Am I willing to put in the work, the effort, the sweat, the time, the hours, the miles to do what that person does? And if the answer is no, then you should accept with grace that you've decided to prioritize something else. And that's what I find. We're only envious and jealous of others when we don't know what we're prioritizing.
No.
If I stand here and look at all the other houses and what they're doing, I won't be focused on my own. And if I'm not focused on my own, I'll be more distracted by everyone else's. And so I find that if you're living in your truth, if you're living in alignment, if you're working on the things that matter to you and prioritizing them, and if success is important to you, study the patterns.
Yeah.
If happiness is important to you, study the patterns. If health is important to you, study the patterns. And so then you've got to ask yourself, in your limited time, what is your top priority?
Yeah.
And that person you're jealous of is just prioritizing that as their number one priority. And chances are, what's your number one priority may be their 10th priority. There's no one in the world who has mastered everything.
Yeah.
The strongest person in the world is not the most beautiful person in the world. The most beautiful person in the world is not the richest person in the world. The richest person in the world is not the most followed person in the world. Like, those things don't correlate.
No.
Because everyone's had to prioritize and everyone's had to compromise. And so I think we spend more time in envy and jealousy when we don't know what our priority is.
Yeah.
And when we don't answer the question, what am I willing to do? And we should look at envy and jealousy as a sign of saying, do I want that?
Yeah.
And not do I want that? Do I want to do what they did to get that? Am I willing to learn that? That's the real question we have to focus on.
Yeah.
So to me, feeling jealousy and envy is normal. It will never go away. It will always be there. It's what you do with that emotion. And that emotion can be used as incredible fuel. But just make sure that you're not focused on just the outcome. You're focused on what the lifestyle
what it
is
takes to get there.
and what it takes to get there.
I feel like the times I've been most jealous in my life have probably been times where I've seen people do things that in my eyes make them feel happy.
Yeah.
Or like that make them happy. So for example, even if let's say it's a physical appearance thing, it's like, wow, that person looks so confident. And I think it's because they look that way. That's why they are confident. And so I'm like, oh, I want to look like that because it's actually their behavior of being confident that I'm desiring. Or I know I feel like we've spoken about this with you before, but a lot of the time, even when I went to New York, I did my yoga teacher training. And I did that because I saw these two girls, Diana and Sharma, my teachers then. And I was like, God, they look so happy. And like when they're teaching this, they look so happy. When they're living their life through yoga, they look so happy. And I was like, that's what I want to feel. And then to feel that means I need to do my yoga teacher training. I did my yoga teacher training and I did not look or feel how they did. And I was like, oh, I did not need to do my yoga teacher training. I did because I really enjoyed it. But that was not what got me what they wanted. And that was the same with you. I saw you were so happy with your purpose. I saw you were so determined and focused. And I was like, oh, I don't think I was jealous of you, but I was like, oh, I want that. And so I'm going to try and mimic what you've done to get that happiness. And I think sometimes we crave the emotions that we think people have from the things they're doing, and we create jealousy in our mind through that versus thinking, do I actually want to do that?
Such a great point.
Like, do I want to do that? And again, it's do the work, but also, do I want to be that person? Is that really what I want in my life? Because actually, I realized it wasn't suited to me to be a yoga teacher. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I did want to feel happy. I did want to feel those emotions. And so I think it's a really good mix of both of those things.
That's such a great point. I really love that. And it's, everyone envies the result. No one envies the process.
I don't think I could do your process. It's
Everyone
mad.
envies the result. No one envies the process. Like no one's sitting there envying staying up till 2 a.m. No, I started working out a little bit recently. And if you look at like Cristiano Ronaldo, like you realize what it takes. Like when you start doing the process in the smallest way, you get so much more respect for someone. You actually don't envy them at all. And that's what I find. If you get on the path to becoming whoever you want to be,
like, damn.
You actually go, I get it. Yeah. Like good for you. Like I really realize how hard that is. So now when I see anyone who has a phenomenal physique, I'm like, good for you. I get how hard that is. Like that's hard work. Whereas when you're not on the path, you're kind of like, oh, I could have that if I wanted that, right? You have that chip on your shoulder. You just care too much about how you look.
Yeah.
But really, you have so much respect for someone because you know what it takes. And that applies to anything, not just that.
I remember thinking that when you used to do podcasts and when you used to do content creation, and I used to be like, oh, wow, it's like so easy. And then I started doing it myself and I was like, flipping hell, this is a full-time job, more than a full-time job. And then I started getting in the habit of it. And then I remember my friend in London and she'll be like, God, it just seems so fun what you do. And I was like, yeah, it's fun. I really enjoy what I do. And she was like, what, how many hours? Maybe like a couple of hours a day? And I'm like, no, I literally work day and night. I edit, I do this, I create, I have to think of ideas, I have to, whatever it is. And she started creating content for herself. And she was like, oh my God, this is so difficult. Like it is a full-time job. But until she actually did that, she had a perception of what it looked like versus what the work it took to actually create the 30 seconds may take 2 hours worth of filming, editing, whatever. Anyway, it just reminded me of that because that's so true. You just don't know until you do it and how difficult it actually is.
Yeah, and so the practical step is turn envy into study and then apply it. Because you'll keep envying someone until you start studying them. When you start studying them, you'll actually gain more appreciation.
Yes.
And then when you apply it, you'll gain more respect.
Yeah.
So envy is transferred into respect because you took envy to study to apply.
I love that.
And so if I envy someone, my number one question is, let me start studying them. Because envy means I'm looking at them from afar. That's what envy is.
Yeah.
Envy is looking at someone from afar and wishing you had that.
Right.
Studying is looking at someone up close and realizing what they did to get there. And then applying is actually taking the steps and recognizing how hard it is.
Yeah.
And so you can turn envy to respect really simply.
I love that little roadmap you just created for us. I also feel like it's a scarcity to abundance mindset, where I remember thinking in this way before in my life, and I still do sometimes, where I'm like, oh my God, but there can be only one person that can do this, and if they're doing it, then I won't be able to do it. And actually, the world is so big that just because that person is making the most amazing food videos doesn't mean you can't. Just because that person is the most amazing doctor doesn't mean you can't be an amazing doctor. It's almost like we think that there's not enough, I don't know what we think there's not enough of for all of us to be able to do it. Like, what do we think is so limited that means that we are so limited in our ability that there's only one person or a few people that can do something amazingly?
In the material world, there are a limited number of VIP seats. There's a limited number of boxes. There's a limited number of security seating. There's a limited number of corporate event organization, right? Like there's all these limited numbers that have been created.
Right.
So our brain has started to believe that the theater of happiness is limited. But there are an infinite number of seats in the theater of happiness.
Yeah.
There's a seat with your name on it and there's a seat with my name on it, because that's how the universe is created.
Yeah.
The universe doesn't have a VIP section. There's not a limited number of seats that are, you're allowed to be happy and you're not. It's not like the universe is running out of happiness.
Sorry, we're at capacity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're never going to hear that from the universe. But because we see a line out of a nightclub and we know that 50% of the room is not going to get inside. We know the bouncer's going to stop you. We know you're going to hear, we're at capacity. We know we're going to hear, it's sold out, it's oversubscribed.
Yeah.
The universe is never oversubscribed. The universe is never sold out. The universe always has enough happiness and joy for each and every person.
Yeah, and so we think it's a limited time only.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's like sold out or for a limited time only.
Yeah.
So there's an expiration date on it too, on your happiness in the material world.